idea. What's going on here? Let's ask the powerful House Republican Darrell Issa. Congressman, where do you stand on this issue? To raise the gas tax, not raise the gas tax? What do you think?
When you run out of money before you run out of projects, the first thing you do is ask, are those projects worthy? And the American taxpayer is paying billions of dollars in various programs that do nothing to help highways get more lanes and decongest traffic. So when you and I pay our gas tax, the first question is, have we stripped away the projects that make no sense, like California's high-speed rail? That project alone, if you spend $1 million a day, could go on for 300 years to fully fund. So that's part of the problem. The fact is, Nancy Pelosi never saw a tax increase she didn't like. She had her chance when she was Speaker, and clearly this is not the time to raise taxes after these massive tax increases under the Obama administration.
You know what's interesting about her argument, though, if I heard it right, Congressman, is that these lower gas prices have been like a big old tax cut, very stimulative to the economy. And then she proposes in the same sentence getting rid of that stimulus. So that didn't make sense to me. But what also didn't make sense to me is the growing number of Republicans who are for this. Now, I understand where they're coming from. They say that, look, our roads and bridges are falling down. I'm sure that's the case. I see it around me where I live. But I do know that between gas taxes, state, local fees, tolls, et cetera, we spend $100 billion on infrastructure, and yet it's happening. So my argument is, and you're the business guy who made it to Congress, but my argument is, let's track that money and how it's spent and how it is that $100 billion isn't enough to cover all this.
Well, Neil, you're exactly right. And, you know, if you had somebody who bought a car and never changed the oil and came back 30,000 miles later saying the engine's shot, you'd say, well, it's your fault. A lot of those crumbling roads are because states and cities have deferred maintenance waiting for,
That's exactly right,
for a stimulus program to come back again from the federal government. Look, I'm always willing to give the other side credit where credit's due. We have not indexed these taxes for inflation, but it's not like taxes haven't gone up in other places. So those who feel that the gas tax is an appropriate place to make a change need to say, where is the offsetting tax cut so the American people aren't paying a bigger tax? If you want to increase the revenue to the trust fund, okay, let's have that discussion. But it's got to be a discussion
that's interesting,
that's
though,
balanced
what you're
with a
saying,
cut.
and this has been the same argument some have used in raising the minimum wage, that and Republicans as well, that they'd be open to it, indexing it to inflation, and then removing the heated debate back and forth. But we never get to that point. So I guess what I'm asking now is, since we don't track where the money is spent or how the money is spent, I only think that if we raise more money, we're going to waste it, and it won't be exactly in a lockbox.
We can clearly cut unnecessary and wasteful programs and free up more money to decongest our highways. We can ask and actually demand that the cities and states not defer their maintenance waiting for us to come in with federal dollars. And yes, we can have a discussion about the gas tax, but let's remember, every year there's what they call bracket creep, you're aware of. Inflation causes your income tax to go up, and nobody's talking about adjusting your income tax for inflation. So even the argument on higher gas taxes for inflation needs to be treated fairly with the fact that every year Uncle Sam takes a pay raise at your expense.
That's a very good point. You know, a lot of people don't know this. You're very successful businessman before you went to Congress, and I always wonder what kind of reaction you get from your colleagues on the left and the right, because when it comes to these business matters, money in, money out matters, that you do know what you speak, and I'm wondering how that could possibly be played as political when it's really just dollars and cents. What kind of treatment do you get?
Well, Neil, that's one of the challenges. When I ran for office the first time and even later, people would say, well, you can't run government like a business. And although there's some truth to that, the fact is they don't try to run it like a business.
That's exactly
they don't look at the bottom line. They don't look at waste and try to get every nickel well spent. And that is the problem in Washington. It's a frustrating area for any of us who have worked in the private sector extensively before coming here, is that we don't try to use best practices. And highway construction is a classic example. It cost a fortune to do highway construction because we make it cost a fortune, much more than it needs to.
Maybe if you had spent more time being a community organizer, you would have gotten it, but that could be just me. Darrell Issa, Happy New Year. Thank you, my friend, very, very much.
Thanks, Neil.